Like Jason said, I'm Joey Branch, consultant out of Newport, Arkansas. Work for ProAg Services. And so what I kind of picked today to talk about was just kind of go through our growing season, the challenges we faced, and how we maybe are going to try and make some adjustments to overcome those challenges that we saw. 2017 set up perfect for us. I mean, we had an excellent stand coming out of the ground, perfect weather early, but dadgummit, we had a deluge of rain come about the 1st of May. I mean, we got anywhere from 8 to 10 inches of rain, and it took what could have been a great crop for us of corn to a good crop. I mean, we still made some really good yields, but man, I feel like we really had the chance to exceed some yields that we hadn't seen in a long time. So let's jump into this. I'm going to start with something right quick. Did anybody watch that football game Monday morning or Monday evening? Wasn't that a heck of a game? My goodness, I tell you what. If you turned it off early, you missed a dandy. Overtime was spectacular. I don't know, do we got any Alabama or Georgia people here today? Well, I hope I don't offend you too much then. I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan, born and bred, raised a Razorback fan. But I tell you, I saw this right here, and there's a little controversy going on, I see, with the game, with the outcome. You're seeing UCF saying that they deserve to be the champions or this and that, and so this right here popped up the other day. I'm going to show you. This is the controversy we've got going on. I think UCF may have been the one that sent this out. Alabama player proposes to his sister after winning the national championship game. I hope I don't offend you too bad there. But anyhow, I think this actually was tweeted out by Trump. This is some of that fake news that Trump tweets out sometimes. But anyhow, all right, guys, let's jump into the corn. This is who I am. I'm Joey Branch. Like I said, I consult over in Jackson County, Woodruff County, Prairie. Work for ProAg Services. We've got a total of 8 employees. So we've on staff we've got up to 5 consultants that work for us. So we cover a good area. All the way from about Tuckerman down to Hazen. It's where our area that we cover. We do a lot of consulting in all crops. I mean, we're corn, cotton, rice, soybean, wheat. Our major crops are going to be soybean. With the times that we're in, soybeans are definitely up on the acres. But we enjoy looking at corn. I tell you, if I had to pick one, and you said, "Hey, I want you to scout one crop for me," it's going to be corn. I really enjoy looking at corn. It's a crop that you get to see what you've done. You get to see the things that are going on in season. If you have some issues, how can we correct it? And you get to see that corn crop respond. I really enjoy getting to see that. So this is the area that we work. I don't know if y'all can see that, the little circle there, but Tuckerman, Newport, Augusta. I spend a lot of time in Augusta. Woodruff County, that's probably where 90% of my acres that I look at, that's where I stay. So the growing season, I just want to kind of go back through and, like I say, the planning. We'll kind of hit these topics here: planning, fertility, weed control, irrigation, diseases, insects, and then how we plan to approach 2018. Planning, ground was prepped early. We had an excellent season. We got a lot of ground ready in late January, early February. So when it came time to plant, those beds were prepped and ready, and we were ready to rock and roll. And man, things rocked and rolled. We were running like crazy chasing planters. This is a picture of one of my growers here, and he actually planted a little bit of 15-inch corn, and that was interesting. I like to see that. That was a nice little trial that we had. But so when we start planting, Jason made mention of this. We want to get good stands early. That's the key. I mean, that's where the high yields start, no doubt about it. I mean, we all know that. When you walk out in that cornfield, you really want to see that picket fence appearance. I mean, that's what we're after, no doubt. I mean, when we get that kind of start, we know we're off and running. So the way we approach that, how do we handle it as ProAg Services, as our recommendations? When we get guys that get itchy, March rolled around this year, early March, and they were ready to go. And we make our decisions on GDUs. We like to make our planning decisions based on GDUs. We look at the forecast. We shoot for 40 GDUs. If we're going to plant today, we want to make sure we're going to accumulate 40 GDUs after that planting. And that ensures, here's some things that we look for. It's chill and injury. We really try to make sure to avoid chill and injury by doing that. That just gives us a good opportunity to avoid that. And chill and injuries, it's a big thing. It can definitely take a corn crop down pretty quick. So what do we start with? Well, you got to get it planted right, you know. Got to make sure, and we've got a grower that we work with, and we chase his planters around like crazy. The sucker's going to plant them 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep, it seems like, all the time. And we try to make sure that we're behind his planters as often as possible and getting that depth right. Depth is very important in corn. You know, we're wanting to set those roots. We want to get those roots rooted in that nutrient zone, make sure that our nodal roots are going to be able to get in that nutrient zone, making sure that our brace roots are where they need to be, you know, and it all starts right here. It all starts right here. You know, don't shallow up the planter. Just make sure, you know, that we're getting that proper planting depth. And here's a good book. I don't know if y'all can make that picture out, but this is a PDF put out by the University of Minnesota. It talks about the planting depth and the effects that you can have from not getting your corn planted right. And guys, when you walk out in the field and you see inconsistencies, I'm going to say 9 out of 10 times it's going to have to do with that planter bouncing. Maybe we're going a little too fast while we're planting. We got to make sure that we do it right on the front end. I know not many of us are on the tractor doing the planting ourselves. We've got guys that are doing that, and they want to get acres done. But they've got to understand that it starts here, and we've got to make sure that we're getting the proper placement. We've got to get the right speed on our planters. We've just got to, all that's got to click. If it doesn't click, we wind up with, you know, a less developed root systems, small stalks, inconsistencies in ear sizes, and all that right there can lead to less yield. So we got to make sure that we're starting out right. Boy, big rains. I talked about those big rains. Here's a nice little caption of our week that we had. We got 8.35 inches in Newport. That was at our headquarters there at Newport. 1 week. Well, we're surrounded by rivers. We've got the White River, we've got the Black River, and we've got the Cache River. And I tell you, that presented some problems for us. You know, we lost a lot of acres. A lot of acres. When this rain came, our corn was V4, V5. We lost a lot of acres due to that rain. It hurt. It was sickening, very sickening. And so, you know, going back to the planting depth importance here, I've got some growers that plant on 38-inch twin rows. We do a lot of twin row planting, and at times we have trouble staying on top of the bed. You know, we have to make sure that we're getting a good solid bed formed and make sure that planter's staying up on top of the bed. This is what happens after 8.5 inches of rain. Planting on the side of the bed, maybe getting down to 1.25 inches, maybe 1.5 inches on planting depth. You know, that's not what you want to see when you walk in a field. Not at all. That's yield loss. And here's a nice little aerial imagery. You see that area right there? It's about 7 acres. You see all those red spots? That's that. That's what happened in that cornfield. So it all starts at planting. Guys, if we're not making sure that we're getting it down there, being consistent, we're going to wind up with a lot of inconsistencies on the end of the year and some yields. So just another topic here. So, all right, I talked about that 15-inch row planting corn that we had. This is a picture from it. That was planted. Y'all saw that fluffy soil behind that tractor and that planter? Well, 8.5 inches of rain. What do you think happens? We get a good seed rise, and so that makes inconsistencies. Maybe we planted it 2 inches deep, but on a fluffy soil, you get 8.5 inches of rain. You lost a little bit of topsoil there, or it's getting washed away. So, you know, we walked around and we were trying to figure out, man, what in the world? Why are we seeing this right here when the rest of the field looks like this right here? And what wound up happening is when you measure that mesocotyl there, you can figure out exactly how deep the plant was planted or wound up being planted. This was planted about 1 inch deep, or that's where it wound up after the rains. And so you see, I mean, it makes that plant struggle. Not able to get the nutrients involved where we want them to be pulling up and all this. So, you know, that's why planting is, like Jason said, definitely the most important thing, the most important step that we're doing while we're putting this corn crop in. Corn fertility. Boy, it's a nice little subject, isn't it? We can cover a lot of ground with this one and stay here a while. But let's just kind of go through what we do as consultants at ProAg. You know, we take a systems approach. I think we saw that slide where Jason had his kitchen sink application, you know, his test done there. And so That's what it involves. It's definitely a system. It's not just, hey, here's your silver bullet and you're going to go make 20 extra bushels. That's not the way it works. You guys know that. But it got to be an approach to where we say, all right, we're going to handle this all the way through. And so that's kind of how we do it. You know, we start out with soil sampling. And guys, I mean, we recommend to see some grid sampling done. I don't care if you variable rate your nutrients or not, but I really like getting the soil samples done on grid to where we can get that data in. We're able to see much more as opposed to going out and taking a random sample on 40 acres here. I mean, the inconsistencies that you can get on a random sample are really high. So that grid sampling, it just kind of takes those inconsistencies away on the data that we get. So that's what we're looking at doing, a lot of grid sampling. We will run the Varus rig some and do some zone sampling. It just depends, you know. But at the very least, you at least need to be doing some random sampling. At planting, we're doing about 40 to 50 pounds of nitrogen up front. I know that doesn't sound like much at all, but you see what we dealt with this year, 8 inches of rain pretty early. So what we do is to overcome that little amount of nitrogen that we're putting out up front, we're spoon feeding pretty quick. We're going out V2, V3, and we do that often. You know, we're concentrating on these growth stages, but we know that we've got critical things happening. Like at V5, we know we're setting rows around. At V12, we know we're setting kernels up and down on that ear. So we're targeting these growth stages to make sure that we're eliminating the stress, you know, and so that's what you see here. You know, we're in season, we're spoon feeding our nitrogen or our ammonium sulfate. Every nitrogen application we make, we're putting sulfate in the mix with it. You know, we try to keep a nice little ratio there with that, and we're going all the way out to tassel. And you know, we're doing a pre-tassel shot, and I honestly think we need to be going a little bit longer. I think we maybe need to be looking at silking, and that's some things that we're going to do for 18. Taking some shots at silk and make sure that we can maintain that nutrient, that nitrogen level in our tissue samples. Something I want to talk about here is some of the stuff that Jason had mentioned here. The probiotics, the plant growth regulators. I encourage you to try some of that. You know, just get it out there, take a look at it, see how it performs for you. These things, they do a lot. You know, the buzzword right now is microbial activity, right? I mean, everybody's talking about cover crops, everybody's talking about microbes in the soil, making sure that you're getting that stuff fed. And so this right here, the best way I've had it explained to me, Quick Roots, Voltivo, Saber X, all this stuff here, it's like giving cotton candy to a 5-year-old. What happens to that 5-year-old when you give him cotton candy? The sucker goes crazy. Or at least my little boy does. That boy, he's going to be bouncing off these walls. And so that's what this stuff does, is for our microbes. It really gets them going, gets them stimulated. And man, early season phosphate uptake is very important, and that's what these microbes do. They allow us to be able to uptake that phosphate early a little bit better. Tissue samples, we're tissue sampling. You know, some guys are doing it on a weekly basis, but at minimum we're doing it every 2 weeks and making sure we're getting out in front of these critical growth stages that I mentioned, and just making sure that, you know, if we're fixing to spray herbicide, we're going to tissue sample. If we're going to be putting a fungicide out, we're going to tissue sample. Make sure that your nutrients are where they need to be, because I mean, the law of the minimum is definitely real. If you've got a nutrient lacking, that's going to hinder your yield at the end of the day. So we got to make sure we're staying on top of that. The nutrients that we typically see, you know, is going to be nitrogen, phosphorus, magnesium, boron. Those are the ones that we deal with pretty often in corn, trying to correct that. And this year was a phosphorus year. You know, at 8.5 inches really created that problem for us, but it was real. We were able to definitely see it, and it wasn't. And I'll go ahead and flip this switch here. Well, hang on, let me back up. What you'll see is we don't just jump out there because we get one tissue sample back that says, hey, you're low on phosphorus. We look for a trend, you know, and that's why we're doing it weekly, because we're looking for trends. Because I mean, what happens when you go out there and plant and then it turns off cold, that corn's up? A lot of times, I mean, if anybody's raised any Pioneer 13, 19 in the past, you've seen that corn turn purple. It's going to purple up no matter what if it turns cold. And that triggers our mind thinking, all right, man, that's a phosphorus issue. But that's not the case a lot of times. So we're making sure we're tissue sampling. that certain variety, it triggers some enzymes, some sugar, it gets cut off, and so that thing, it just turns purple when it turns cold. Tissue sampling, very important, and I've got a tissue sample in here I want to talk about some too. But the phosphorus was created by several issues. But look here, I want to point something out here. So nitrogen, what do you see? You see that curve there, and then where are we at? R1. Can y'all see that? We're at R1, and we've taken in 75% of our nitrogen. That's why I'm saying we've really got to make sure we're getting that corn fertilized a little bit later. Because look, we still got 25%. We all like football. We're just now getting into the fourth quarter. This is it. We don't want to do what Georgia did and take the fourth quarter off and allow Alabama to win the game. We want to win the game. So that's what we got to concentrate on. We got to make sure that we're keeping this corn going all season long. And you see the same thing. I mean, nitrogen, that's one we concentrate on because we can lose it quite a bit. Potassium, we know if we're taking proper care early, we're going to make sure we've got the potassium there. Magnesium, that's something we deal with. I mean, we deal with sandy soils. It's tough to make all that magnesium stay where it needs to stay. Boron's the same way for us. So 5 minutes, all right, I'm going to have to whistle through. So here's the tissue sample, and like I said, we've got phosphorus issues. This was created, all that rain. That's tough to correct when you get phosphorus low like that. In-season applications, we did make a few of them. It was just some judgment calls we made. We ran some DAP, some mez early, trying to pick that, just a light shot, trying to get, we were shallow rooted because of all the rain, so we were trying to put some phosphorus there where we could grab hold of it real easy. Weed control, weed control. We're dealing with glyphosate, LS, PPO resistant pigweeds. Well, we don't have a lot of options when it comes to soybeans, but corn is very valuable in our rotation. We run a lot of Halex GT. It's a one-trip pass for us. It allows us to growers able to move on to the next acre and not have to worry about his weeds for the rest of the season. It usually provides season-long control for us as well. We're targeting, y'all can see where we're targeting that at. And make sure you're taking care of your weeds after harvest too. That's a big deal, especially in our area. Disease issues, well, this year it was pretty heavy. Southern rust came in about a month earlier than typical. We usually see it in July. It came in June this year. And so that's got my mind spinning here. How can I protect my corn a little bit better than we did this year? We did a good job of protecting the upper half, the upper third of the plant. What happens when an airplane flies over a cornfield when he's putting fungicide out? He ain't penetrating the canopy very well. So we're trying to look at some trials of where we can overcome that, and we're going to incorporate some of that this year. And so here's some of the typical stuff we do. And guys, the growers that I work for, our approach is to make sure we're going to fungicide our corn. We like to be proactive more so than reactive when it comes to disease. Just making sure that we keep that corn as healthy as possible, as long as possible. And some products we use. That's a trial we did with Syngenta a couple years ago. And you can see, untreated. That's just north of our headquarters there at Newport. There's the untreated area. And, we're picking up some yield. May not pick up the yield every year, but most of the time we're getting some yield increase out of it. Irrigation season, most everything that we look at is 100% irrigated. We didn't have to do a lot of irrigating this year, but we did some. And so we looked at incorporating some soil moisture sensors this year, and this really increased our knowledge on what was going on out there with moisture. A lot of times we get on a schedule with corn and we say, all right, every Monday I'm going to water, every Monday I'm watering. Or with the pivot, we're going to water 3/4 of an inch Monday, and then on Friday I'm going to do another 3/4 of an inch. So this really opened our eyes to what we were doing and how we're doing it. And we're using a volumetric sensor. I know there's a lot of potentiometer moisture meters being used, but what we have is a volumetric sensor, and what we're using, and it's one sensor, 34 inches long. We're taking moisture readings from 2 inches all the way down to 34 inches. And here's a nice little chart you get to see from that. Here's our depths, different colors there. And then what I really like about this chart here, guys, is you see that orange line right there? You're not getting much movement out of that at all. You know what that tells me? That tells me that I've either got a compaction issue or something else is going on here, and I'm not getting the water infiltration that I think I should be. And so we're having to really increase our irrigations when it comes to fields like this, where we think we're doing a good job, we're not doing a good job. And vice versa too. I mean, it works both ways. It works both ways. I really like this data. And here's just a recharge chart. You know, the tensiometers are using numbers. They're using numbers to trigger irrigations, and we're looking at what's actually going on in the soil here. And so you can see we did an early season irrigation, so we knew we were fully charged here, and that's what we shot for the rest of the year. Late season irrigation, they just blew the water through. We didn't get much of a recharge there, not at all. Soil moisture sensor comparison, I'll kind of skip through that. And let's talk about insects right quick. Insects were terrible. Corn earworm, man, you walk out in the field and you bust an ear open and we were seeing upwards of 5 worms per ear. It was horrible, horrible. So what are we going to do to overcome that? We're going to look at a lot more Viptera. We're seeing a fall off on our double pro and our triple pro control. It's just not doing the trick for us anymore. So we're going to have a lot more Viptera acres next year. And then our conventional corn, we didn't spray our conventional corn with anything this year, and it really bit us in the butt. The grower just kind of backed up and said, no, I don't want to do it. And boy, at the end of the year, we needed to. So the changes we're looking at making, you know, the planting changes, we're going to be doing some strip tilling this year. 2018 is going to be the first year for us to look at some strip tilling. I've got about 3 growers that are going to be moving over to this, and it looks promising. I really like the way that looks. Cover crops. There's a lot more cover crop in the mix this year. And now in corn, let me say this. The only thing we're really trying to achieve with cover crop in corn is hold that bed together a little better so we avoid that erosion that y'all saw early. So we're terminating that thing pretty quick. We're not letting it get much size to it at all. Soil moisture sensors, we're going to incorporate more of them. And like I said, we're going to be changes for insects and diseases. We're planting more Viptera. We're going to overspray more, I think, with maybe a Prevathon application or a Intrepid Edge application. Timing's everything with that. So anything, I got maybe a minute for questions if anybody's got any questions.
Any questions for Joey or myself? I think we've about used up our time. But, all right. Thank you, Joey.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.